When most people hear the words Air Force One, they picture a massive blue and white Boeing 747, lifting off with the President of the United States on board. But technically, Air Force One is not the name of a single airplane. It is a call sign, used by air traffic control for any United States Air Force aircraft carrying the President. If the President stepped onto a different Air Force jet, that aircraft would become Air Force One for the duration of the flight. Over time, though, the phrase became much more than a technical label. It came to represent the main presidential aircraft, the power of the office, and the idea of a White House that can move through the sky at hundreds of miles per hour. The story begins during World War II, when presidential travel became a serious security issue. Before dedicated presidential aircraft, presidents could and did use commercial or ordinary military transportation. But wartime changed the risk calculation. Military advisors in the Department of War worried that putting the president on a normal commercial route was too dangerous, especially when global conflict had made long-distance travel more complicated and more vulnerable. The president was not just another passenger. He was the commander-in-chief, a central figure in national decision-making, and a symbol of continuity. That meant his transportation needed to be safer, more controlled, and more reliable than anything available to the average traveler. In 1944, the United States converted a Douglas C-54 Skymaster into the first purpose-built presidential aircraft. It was nicknamed the Sacred Cow, a name that hinted at both its importance and the special treatment required for presidential travel. This was not a luxury aircraft in the modern sense, but it was a major step forward. It gave the president a dedicated military-operated plane, planned around security, communications, and long-range travel. The Sacred Cow carried President Franklin D. Roosevelt to the Yalta Conference in February 1945, one of the most consequential meetings of the war. On that trip, presidential aviation proved it could support diplomacy at the highest level. The Sacred Cow also served President Harry S. Truman for another 2 years, linking two administrations at a turning point in history. Roosevelt used it during the final phase of World War II. Truman inherited it as the United States entered the early Cold War and took on a larger global role. That continuity mattered. The aircraft showed that presidential travel was becoming an institution, not a one-time wartime workaround. Presidents needed to cross the country, attend international conferences, and respond quickly to crises. A dedicated aircraft made that possible in a way that trains, ships, or commercial flights could not match. The presidency had become mobile. The call sign Air Force One did not appear until 1954, and it was created because of a potentially dangerous confusion. A Lockheed Constellation carrying President Dwight D. Eisenhower entered the same airspace as a commercial airline flight using the same flight number. In aviation, clarity is everything. Controllers, pilots, and military personnel need to know instantly which aircraft they are talking to, especially when the president is aboard. The solution was simple and powerful. Whenever the president was on a United States Air Force aircraft, that aircraft would use the unique call sign Air Force One. The name was born from safety, not ceremony. Eisenhower's era also included aircraft such as the Lockheed Constellation known as Columbine 3. These early presidential planes helped shape expectations for what the flying presidency required. They needed range, dependable performance, secure operations, and space for staff. A president does not travel alone. Advisors, communications personnel, security teams, journalists, and support staff are often part of the mission. Even in the propeller age, presidential aircraft were not just transportation. They were moving command environments. Every flight had to combine logistics, diplomacy, security, and media access. That balance would become even more important as aircraft technology advanced into the jet age. A major transformation came in 1962 with the introduction of SAM 26000, a Boeing 707 modified for presidential service. This aircraft helped define the modern image of Air Force One. It was faster, more capable, and visually unforgettable. Its livery was designed by industrial designer Raymond Loewy, who helped create the elegant blue and white appearance that still influences presidential aircraft today. The design avoided an overly military look while still projecting authority. It suggested dignity, calm, and national identity. The words United States of America along the fuselage turned the aircraft into a flying diplomatic statement, visible on runways around the world. The Boeing 707 era continued through the 1960s and 1970s, with 3 presidential 707s entering service across those decades. These jets arrived during a time when television, global diplomacy, and Cold War competition made presidential imagery more important than ever. A president stepping down the stairs of Air Force One became a recognizable political image. The aircraft could arrive in foreign capitals as a symbol of American presence before the president even spoke a word. It also changed domestic politics. Presidents could move faster between states, appear at more events, and respond more quickly to national moments. The jet made the office feel more immediate and more global. Since 1990, the aircraft most commonly associated with Air Force One have been 2 Boeing VC-25A planes, highly customized versions of the Boeing 747-200B. These aircraft are visually familiar because of their size, 4 engines, upper deck, and distinctive presidential paint scheme. But their real importance lies in what they represent operationally. A presidential aircraft must be more than comfortable. It must support secure communications, long-distance travel, staff coordination, press operations, and continuity of government. While many technical details are not public, the basic idea is clear: the president must be able to work while airborne. In a crisis, the aircraft cannot simply be a passenger cabin. It has to function as an airborne command center. Air Force One is also a stage for diplomacy. From time to time, presidents have invited foreign leaders to travel aboard the aircraft, turning a flight into a private political setting. In 1973, President Richard Nixon invited Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev to fly with him from Washington, D.C., to California. During the Cold War, that kind of shared journey carried symbolic weight. It suggested access, confidence, and negotiation beyond the formal conference room. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan and Queen Elizabeth II toured the U.S. West Coast aboard the aircraft. These moments show that Air Force One is not only a tool for movement. It can also be used to communicate trust, status, and alliance. The future of presidential aviation centers on the VC-25B, based on the Boeing 747-8 platform. The article notes that a modified Boeing 747-8 connected to the VC-25B program entered service on July 1, 2026, and that the U.S. Air Force has ordered 2 Boeing 747-8 aircraft to serve as the next generation of presidential planes, expected no earlier than 2027 or 2028. Whatever the exact timeline, the reason for replacement is straightforward: aircraft age, technology changes, and presidential requirements keep evolving. Newer aircraft can offer updated systems, greater efficiency, and modernized support for communications and security. The symbol may look familiar, but the machinery behind it must keep moving forward. In the end, Air Force One is powerful because it exists in 2 worlds at once. In aviation terms, it is a call sign used to identify an Air Force aircraft carrying the president. In public imagination, it is the giant presidential jet, the blue and white aircraft that appears during crises, campaigns, summits, and state visits. Its history reflects changes in technology, security, diplomacy, and the presidency itself. From the sacred cow of World War II to the 707s of the Cold War and the 747s of the modern era, Air Force One has become a moving symbol of American executive power. It is not just how a president travels. It is how the presidency arrives. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.